Good morning, everybody. How are we doing out there? Boy, if pandemic isn't bad enough, we got fires out here in the west coast of the U.S. Boy, just blazing away. So thoughts and prayers out to all those that are displaced and your structures. Just want to say hi to everybody. Hope you're safe and your family's safe. We are going to be starting our ZENcast today with ZCM Asset Inventory. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat today. Can't get rid of it. Stand by a sec. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully you can get some information out of this ZENcast that you could use in your environment. We're going to be talking about ZENcast ZCM Asset Inventory today. We had Bob Reynolds a few weeks ago give us kind of a briefing on asset inventory. Hey, Don, thank you. Doing well, thank you. Bob Reynolds was talking about asset inventory and what ZCM can do, asset management in ZCM, which is an add-on, and then what Service Desk can do as far as asset management. So if you haven't seen that particular video, it's a good one and well-rounded. We're going to cover the ZENworks part of this time, what ZCM Asset Inventory can do for you. Excuse me. So a little bit of housekeeping again. Log into YouTube chat. You can join in just like Don did, and we can talk to each other. If you put an @ under the direct with the name, you can direct message that particular person. There may be some polls on the way. If the exclamation points you see in my presentation, you can type those in chat and get the URL instead of having to type it down. Now the recordings, you're watching the recordings, obviously that won't be the same. And then YouTube settings. You turn off autoplay if you can, and then set your quality to auto 720, and that should give you the best results, and then it won't be going back and forth. It looks like my back screen is a little bit off today. Sorry about that. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications about when we're going live if you're logged into YouTube. So that way you can prepare yourself for every other week. We are in September, and we are doing the ZENcasts we take care of is the first and the third Tuesday of each month at 9 o'clock right here at Mountain Time. So you can also subscribe. You're on the Micro Focus Support and Training channel. You could subscribe to that particular channel to get the updates on those recordings as well. Excuse the phone in the background. Again, we wanted to let you know that Micro Focus, the virtual universe, yes, it is over, but you can review this year's past virtual conferences and their sessions. So if you find something on there, you might find something that will pertain to your environment and will be handy for you to use. So look at some of those sessions. You can probably reap some benefits from those. Patch Tuesday Highlights in September is out. So you can go out there and see what the latest patches are giving us, as well as some of the concerns you might have when you're doing your patches. So they've started this every month. So go out to the ZENworks Tips and Information site and the community site, and you'll be able to see those. And it's a nice little write-up on patches and where Microsoft is going, what some of the other patches may be, any vulnerabilities, and that type of thing. ZENworks Desktop Containers 20 is coming, and I think it might be released this week, actually. I hope you reviewed. If you haven't, check out the What's New webinar. That's a recording now. It was on September 8th. It was really interesting because now you can do your streaming right through the ZENworks Desktop Containers. It allows you to stream, so those working at home can actually stream their applications. Opens in RDP sessions. There's other things that happens with the client. So be sure to double check that out. It's gonna really help the at-home workers and you facilitate some of those applications getting to their desktop. Open Horizons Magazine's behind the scenes of ZENworks Service Desk, as I announced last time. Pretty interesting article on Service Desk that I found. Go ahead and check that out. And then ZENworks Service Desk public beta is available. So if you're interested in that, you can always request for that at zen@microfocus.com. But it is now a public beta, and go ahead and try it out. Okay, oops, I clicked the wrong one. I clicked right on it, a URL. Hang on a second. Let's go here. Product news. Okay, so ZENworks Configuration Management, we're at 2020 Update 1. There's a TID out there that'll get you the Update 1, the ZDC, the agent cleanup, which is TID 7024523. PRU for September is out, came out beginning of the month. There is imaging driver updates for June that was released for 17.1 and up. And then committed support for 2017 has been extended. Just so you know, it's April 2021. Gives you a little more breathing room to navigate through some of those upgrades and migrations that you might need to do in case you have to do a database migration or whatever. We prefer you to take it slow so that we can catch those things along the way if anything happens. But for the most part, it has been extended so that you have a little more breathing room. And I hear rejoicing in the background. Just kidding. ZENworks Service Desk 8.1.2 is out. Again, 8.2 beta is out. The cadence for the security patches are August and November for both ZENworks Service Desk and Zenworks Reporting Server. So make sure you check your online updates when you're doing the patching for those appliances. And then, of course, we talked about DB migration tools for ZCM and ZSD. And again, MFDC 20 is either out or about ready to be released. Okay. These are resources for you to be able to tap into so that if you're watching this recording or you're online here, feel free to go to these. Obviously, the Micro Focus support page, the ideas exchange. Please put your ideas out there. You guys are in the midst of it and using the product. We'd love to hear what you think works, doesn't work, would like to see, and so forth. So please put those ideas out there. All the products are under that particular URL. And then product lifecycle, again, 2017 has been extended to April, but product lifecycle for all the products is out there, as well as product resources. Searching the Micro Focus site, again, I mentioned this last week. I went ahead and I clicked on the search button, just logging into microfocus.com, and then I went ahead and put in my search, and it found what I needed. Just even putting in like ZAV or update 2020 update 1, it'll bring those things to you. So they've done a good job trying to index those searches. Patchfinder also, don't forget about Patchfinder. If you go to Patchfinder, you can then put in what version you're currently on, and it will give you your current patches and your superseded patches. So that's there, and it'll give you a direct link to those particular either TIDs or updates or links to download. Education resources. Eventually, these top 3 will be evolved into one, into Education Central. But I want to make sure you're aware that we had plenty of education out there. They're slowly moving to Education Central. And so we're consolidating that. But you may have to find like the on-demand training. Some of the stuff will remain there before it's moved over, obviously. Knowledge base, product forums. You guys are working in the product, like I said. We try to monitor those. Also, partners and other of you, customers, are on there giving ideas for people that might have issues. So reference the forums occasionally. You'll find some interesting conversations there. Support and Training YouTube channel, which is this one here. Webinar recordings is a fantastic link, and that's where you can find... what did I do? I know what I did. Hang on a second. just went blank. There we go. All right, come back. I typed. Okay, let me go back. Let me go to my chat. Might help. That's where I made my error. Webinars. That's where you find an index of all the webinars out there. Okay, including the latest one, which is desktop containers, which I think you will find interesting in the functionality that we're adding to that particular product. And then documentation. Be sure to double check your documentation on that stuff. Let's see. Patch management training is available. We're using the Acclaim badge certifications, which is an industry standard now. So you can actually get that stamp of certification. And it is ZPM 2050-2020. And it's for learning. It makes you a specialist for patch management. We're also working on 2020 admin and 2020 install and config. So those are two that are up and coming. ZENworks community announcements. If you want to see that particular forum for the community, go out to the ZENworks tips and information as well. But there's an announcement for the patch management out there. The Engage newsletter for August. September is going to be released any day now, so I didn't have that URL. ZENworks Service Desk Public Beta we talked about. And this is where you can actually go to the public beta and just go out to if you go to the ZSD beta. I did it again, sorry. Let me go back. ZSD beta. This particular link, or if you go out, if you go out to this particular link, you'll be able to actually log in with that announcement with the user IDs and passwords and just kick the tires on it. It's in the cloud. We have it out there for you guys to play with to try and see what features, how it looks, what it'll look in your environment. And then you could also request an on-prem for the public beta, and we would send that to you. So if you need to and you want to kick the tires, go out to the cloud, go out to this particular URL, and you'll have the announcement out there. Another one was One Way, No Way. View software vulnerabilities in your way for ZENworks 2020. It's about how software vulnerabilities are affecting you and how ZENworks deals with them. So it's a good article out there written not too long ago, which really applies to the vulnerabilities and the CVEs that are out there. And then also, I'm almost certain it has even dashboard stuff. So if you have a vulnerability you're trying to kill and you want to also monitor it through the patches in ZENworks, you can do so. It tells you how your dashboard can be set up. And then, of course, the announcement for the ZENworks committed support for ZCM 2017 is extended to April 2021. So, all right, let's get in line here. So I don't see any questions in chat. Thank you again for being here. I'm happy to go over some of the ZENcast last demo review and Q&A. I kind of tucked this in now for those questions either that were asked or that failed during our demo. We kind of go over them so at least you have a follow-up. All right. So last week or 2 weeks ago, we had Peter Sumption on and myself doing scripted installs. And we did have a couple of issues. Apparently, Luke couldn't approve a ticket in Service Desk, which was obviously tragic. We found out that the tool adds that Peter Sumption had needed some privileges. So that was what we encountered. If you downloaded that particular script, you should be able to adjust that privilege to get some of those processes being approved in the ticketing system should you bring up a test environment. Subscribe and share failed. It was disabled on the one side. I didn't catch it. So that's one of the reasons why we're transferring bundles and policies from one device, from one zone to another zone, and it basically was disabled. There's a tick mark in there. MFDC was not shown and workstations were not shown. So we talked a little bit about Micro Focus desktop containers and using that for some of your test environments, and workstations also using VMs. We didn't get to those, but we'll get to those in a later broadcast, especially with MFDC 20 being out. I'm hoping to get some resources from development or Jason or somebody to show that off here on the ZENcast. And then we had some setup questions and answers. For Luke not approving, it was under setup privileges, customer incidents, and edit. He didn't have edit. He had view. So back to the Luke Skywalker couldn't approve issue. All right. So that's some of the review that we've had for our demos. And of course, there's the Zenworks Test Environments YouTube recording, should you want to review that. Topics today: Zenworks Asset Inventory and Inventory Management. And then upcoming, we have auditing and messaging, we have certificates, database maintenance tools, virtual application streaming coming up. So you're aware of what's coming up soon. Again, we've gone through some of these particular surveys and asked you what you're looking for. And so we're trying to provide those right off the bat here at ZENcast. I hope we've been doing a reasonable job on getting some details to you. Again, if you just started or just came into the channel, you can log into YouTube chat to join the conversation. And you can put an @ to direct message the user that's in the conversation. And then the exclamation commands, should you see those, you can type those in chat and you'll actually get the full URL without having to read it in the recording or try and type it out real quick. No questions. I don't see any questions. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're going to go into ZENcast Lab Talk, and it's going to be on asset inventory. So why? The big question is, why asset inventory? One, there's a lot of reasons why. From financials all the way to repairing things, knowing what's on the machine. So one way is to identify issues so that you can see that there's an incompatibility or there's a BIOS that needs to be upgraded, or different types of things that might appear that throws that red flag, or they have an older unit and you're able to go, well, no wonder we're re-imaging it all the time. Forecast life cycle. You can then, and this ties into financials, which is, hey, by the way, we're going to need 200 units next year, June. So let's budget for it and start prepping for that. And it's going to be an OS from, an older Windows 10 to a new Windows 10. We need to transfer people's identities over and so forth. Whatever you do for that process, you can then forecast that life cycle for those devices. You can also, well, we'll get to that later. Replace, and that falls into the replacements and upgrades for those devices. And then again, financials and production, keeping your staff producing the best that they can, right? Having the latest, or at least what they need in order to do their job. So assets, kind of one of those things. It's a one of those things that until you need it, until you need to know, you just let process move forward. But it's good to have this in the background, being able to forecast and know what your users have in front of them so that you can get them all their needed resources. And we had Bob Reynolds on, and we talked a little bit about ZENworks Asset Inventory. And there's some agents that we have, which you're familiar with: managed devices and inventory-only devices. And these basically can be installed on Windows, Linux, Mac, and of course now the mobiles. being able to do a general inventory of those particular devices. Well, we also have, as you may be aware of, network discovery. And that's where you can actually see those computers you don't want an agent on, but you can actually see you can see that they're a computer. There's servers, there's printers, routers, switches, maybe IP phones, whatever's connected to the network. So it's a network discovery, and it pretty much gives off an IP or a MAC or some type of identifier. You're able to actually discover it and know what it is. And then within that, you can go into the inventory and adjust it so that you can actually get a list of routers or switches or printers and their names, so that you can keep that inventory. So you know when the router, you can put the serial number in. You can put how long the printer's been on the network, those types of things. And then there are other additional assets that aren't really connected. It may be connected through the computer, docking stations, monitors, external storage. Non-network assets could be chairs, desks, partitions, vehicles, parts, all of those. Now, the non-network assets you can pretty much consume in Service Desk, which is what Bob showed us. The others you can kind of have in ZENworks Asset Inventory. If you wanted to combine them, you can import from ZENworks into Service Desk those items. Today we're going to pretty much focus on ZENworks configuration management and those types of assets. So the inventory only device, or the network discovery devices, those are the ways it tries to process or gather information on the network. MAC address, Nmap, SNMP, SSH, WinAPI, WMI, and ZENworks. So you can turn these on and off. You can tweak it. You can send your network discoveries out. You could find rogue devices that shouldn't be on the network this way. It's a real handy tool. We used it quite often at my previous employer. Any questions on the agents or network discovery? We're going to cover assets mostly, and how after these have been run or placed on the devices, how the asset is going to be consumed. So there's components to the ZENworks inventory management, and those are the ZAA, the ZENworks Adaptive Agent, right? That's the agent or inventory only agent. There's a PRU, which is a product recognition unit. And then there's scanning and database processing that goes through. Those are some of the components for this process to function in ZENworks. And then there's also the collection part of it, which is an inventory scan. You could pull from the registry. There's a data collection form, which it can be physical or invisible. You can have a regular cycle where your users fill out certain things in the data collection form so that you can know and track that particular product or those assets on the product, giving it a home with a user. So we'll cover some of those today. And then, of course, there's reporting. ZENworks configuration management. There's a dashboard, ZRS, ZSD. Again, see that ZENcast that I posted earlier for asset management. You can see what we covered with part of ZCM, and then we really dove into Service Desk. So ZENworks inventory management, you can pull from the registry certain locations. So we had somebody on the forum a couple weeks ago that said, hey, I'd like to be able to know the location or populate the location in my inventory report. By filling out this particular location in the registry, you can actually create dynamic groups, have it included in dynamic groups, or have device locations have static info. So when it registers, it has it in there. So this is a great URL. This is basically the location URL. Sorry, not URL. The location registry location Hive. So you can go there and fill that out and actually pre-populate that. So when it does register, it will connect to either device location or inventory site. So you can play with that. We're gonna do some administrator defined fields as well. So there's different things in the administrator defined fields. We got users, workstation, component, product, and network device. So what does it do? What is an administrator defined fields? Well, for a user, it gathers demographic data about the workstation user, right? And you could do this through the collection data form, which we'll show you in a little bit. The same thing for the workstation. So you may need to know that this is Jane Doe's laptop, and you want to add some additional information in there because she has a special camera, or she has, a microphone that's needed for certain needs for her processing. So you want to identify it with her. So you can put some demographic data about the workstation user in here, as well as the workstation itself, gathering demographic data. It needs an external drive. You need, it does a processing for this analytic study, throwing things out there. So gathering demographic data about the workstation itself. It may be located in a particular location and should not be moved, right? It's designed for, yes, it's Windows 7, but we haven't upgraded to the latest application to be able to run Windows 10 for that particular processing. So it's going to remain there. You can add some of this demographic data to it. There's also component, which is inventory data, and product, inventory about a product, and then network devices. We'll cover the top two pretty heavily today, but administrator defined fields is a really good way to help you identify more of your devices that are out there and what they're used for. ZCC inventory environment. There are schedules. There's quite a few schedules, actually. There's an inventory schedule that will run a scan. There's a mobile device inventory that will run a scan. Collection data form, you can schedule that to pop up every physical inventory once a year, once every 6 months. Not at all. Inventory only. Purge inventory. So being able to purge some of the older stuff that's been deleted out. The PRU schedule. When are you bringing it down? Out of band inventory reconciliation. Those devices that are out of band. And then there's a dedicated inventory purge server. And I threw this in here because there's quite a few dedicated servers in Zenworks configuration management. And if you have a particular Zenworks primary server that you're going to be replacing, you need to know that it's dedicated for something so that you can move that to another server before you decommission that particular server. So it's important to remember that don't leave out those dedicated servers that you have configured. And inventory purge is one of them. So inventory collectors and processors, we have some of the collectors are the satellites and the primaries and the managed device. So basically the managed device has an agent on it that will scan. Once it scans, it holds it and then rolls it up to its parent, which could be either a satellite, which is a child of a primary, or a primary directly. But it basically will roll that up, and then if it's a satellite, if it's a satellite that it rolls up to, then that satellite will collect it and kind of hold on to everything, and every 2 hours it'll roll it up to the primary. So that way it's not just constantly doing that. If there's a lot of inventory going on, it'll kind of collect it, wait, and then roll it up to the primary, and then the primary will process it. So there's a couple of directories there that we're going to watch in our environment to see how this inventory process rolls up. And every once in a while, we've gotten calls in support where, hey, inventory isn't rolling up. I just ran a scan yesterday, and today it hasn't even rolled up. And I only have a primary there, or I have a satellite, and it should roll up to the satellite then primary, but it's not coming through. I don't see the results of that. Once in a while, you can go into these directories, and one of them may be corrupt or just stuck. And you can remove those out, and then everything starts processing, and you could just rerun another scan on that particular device. So we'll look at those directories today so that you can see how that processes. So for ZCM inventory, we have some ZAC commands. And you have ZAC INV, which is just do my delta. You have a ZAC INV -F scan now, which is force a scan now and start with a brand new scan. Not a delta, but give me a full scan. And then ZAC INV CDF, which is the collection data form. So these are kind of handy to have. Now you can also do this in Zenworks itself, in ZCC. If you've noticed and gone to a device and done a scan, it'll also ask you, do you want a full scan? So we'll look at that in our zone today and see how that kind of functions. And then we have Zenworks Reporting. You can report from ZCC, and you can report ZCC reporting, there's ZCM reporting, and then there's ZRS reporting. So you can, if you tie it into ZRS, you can actually get some more detailed reporting with ZRS. But there's ZCC and then the ZCM. And then scanning options. We have you can collect software applications. You can actually have options for scanning. And some of them are collect software applications. You can collect software file information. We'll look at this in ZCC. Collect hardware, and user can initiate scan. Those top three are by default, and you can adjust those as needed. And this would be default as of per the schedule, per if they go into their Zenworks technician application and go to inventory and try to scan, or your administrators go into ZCC and scan from there. Those are pretty much the defaults for those. You can also do launch collection data form, run DMTF translator, which is Desktop Management Task Force, which allows you to port into other products, and then collect MSI information. So there are some other things you might want to select, and we'll cover hopefully all of those today. But it looks, by default, these are good. The collection data form I loved because at my previous employer, they asked us to do physical inventories. And so every 6 months or a year, they said, well, what's out there? Well, it's time to do that physical. We got to stop, let's see what's going on out in the field. Let's do a physical. Well, we use the collection data form for that. We put in extra ADFs or administrator defined fields for monitor 1, monitor 2, serial number, monitor 1, monitor 2 serial number, those types of things. Is there a printer attached directly? What's the IP phone? What's the serial number on the IP phone? So you can actually do that, and it'll come right into that particular inventory report for that device. And then you can report further on it, right? What are all our IP phones? How is that project going, since we're starting to deploy IP phones? So, and that's really where we started doing that, is we started the physical inventory, and then we had a project with IP phones, and it was just great just to add a couple of fields, and then we could actually know what the serial number is and the IP phone type and those types of things, and it's connected to this particular device, right? Any questions out there regarding inventory scan options or what we've covered so far in inventory, ZCM inventory? Nothing in chat yet, so we'll just continue on. Zcc Exceptions. So there are a few things you can, like I said, you can start tailoring it to your environment. You can tailor the software applications. You can include and exclude software files. In the ZCC, you can edit. You can actually click on Add Hardware and say, I have this particular external hard drive on this device. or I have this printer attached to this device, or IP phone, or whatever else might be a peripheral that the agent doesn't happen to pick up. You can actually add those things to it. You can do device editing. So if you went to the device, and let's say the user's on the device, and a technician goes to the device and he's working on something and he's replaced a direct connect printer and he needs to change that out, he can easily then go to inventory, and then he could go to the editor and log in as a administrator in ZCC and actually start updating some of the areas in that device on the inventory. And the next scan, it will roll that into the database. There's ZCC editing too, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the detailed hardware and software inventory. And you can select that and actually go down to the bottom and add hardware or edit some of those areas so that you have it. Now, one thing that the ADFs help is populate the top part of this particular inventory sheet. Primary user department. We're going to actually add a monitor and some other things in here so that you can have a full-blown inventory. There's also a search and replace so that you can actually populate a particular building or site within this particular page as well. And there's a bulk editing, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Oh, here's the bulk editing right here for demographic information. It's under the inventory. You do a device search and you add a filter and you say, okay, I have this floor is 10.1.23, for instance. You could put a filter in for 10.1.23 and you know that particular department is on that floor and everybody on that floor has this particular IP address, for instance. And then you could say, what columns do I want to display? Well, I want to display the location and the department. And so once you do, you can then, under the search results, it'll come up in the search results, and you could say replace the selected. You could select those devices in the search results. You could then actually say, I want this department to be finance. And so then it'll put all of those devices that are selected, it'll put under department, finance, and location. It could be floor 2. And once you do replace all, in your inventory in the database, it will come up with those fields populated. And then inventory, some more inventory exceptions. You have a brand new now 2009 build, and PRU doesn't reflect that because it comes out monthly, and you're now into September and you've got the 2009 builds going out, but the PRU is released, September 1st, but let's say it's August. You can actually go in and add support for newly released versions of operating systems. There's a custom OS target XML, and you can go and there's for Zenworks Home cache registration, you can then configure some of these files, the custom OS target file, so that it adds that to your inventory so that you're not left out and it doesn't show up at all on your particular inventory report or even on your summary page. And then other examples are, if you do that, there are some Novell Zenworks configure action commands. And this is written up in the documentation. I'll have a list of documentation URLs near the end of this so that you have those. Any questions on that summary for Zenworks Asset Inventory? I don't see any so far. Please chat out in chat. Please go ahead and log in and ask any questions you may have. We're going to go directly to the lab now and see what we have next. Let me go here. All right. So at this time we have a 20.update1 configuration. All right. And we have some inventory going on. We have some devices. Let me go out here to devices. A couple of them are new and fresh. Most of them aren't. But we have a Windows 10 1909. And then we also have a server out there that is /4. So if we go, which is a satellite. This one here. Okay. So we're running a satellite. And then if we want to check our configuration, because we put a satellite at that location, we now want to roll our inventory up to that and then have the satellite talk to the parent, which is a primary server. We can then go into our infrastructure management, check our default rule, and you can see for collection, this particular /server is the primary. If it's not available, it'll go directly to the primary. But if it is, it'll go to the / device first and then roll up. So that's our functioning inventory as far as the foundation, the road path, right? It's going to go to it's going to go from the device to the satellite to the primary. Okay? So if we go to the workstations, I'm over here. Let's log in. Let me take this off. There. All right, so let's go to my virtual machines. I have a few of them up. We're primarily working with the 1909. Okay. So one thing to note, we have the directory here, and let me make this a little bit bigger. Let's go inventory. So you can see it's under Novell ZENworks Work Inventory. And we have a GUID here. If you notice, this particular GUID, A49C97, is the device A49C97. Okay? So your inventory comes through, the traffic comes through with the GUID on it. And then it has a date and timestamp, obviously, on the file. You have the full inventory, and these can be opened up in Notepad or whatever, and this is your inventory that it gathered. This is the full, and then you have a delta. The last one was done is the full. We'll see a delta coming up in just a moment. So, and then we have out here, we have our scan. We're not going to do a force. We're just going to do a ZAC inventory scan now. And we'll watch that. Now it's out there processing. If we look at Task Manager, we should be able to see this task running. Okay. We should be able to see it. Thought it was at the top. Hello. Don't see it. There it is. So you have, this is some of the product, and that's the usage part of it. So you can actually see the usage of each application that's opened up. I don't see it, but it's still processing. Let's minimize this. Notice there's a backup. Notice these just started in. And they're being populated. Let's do a refresh on this. Okay. Things processing. If we then go to more VMs. That's completed. You can see now it's completed. If we look here, we can see on this particular one, the collection schedule is every 2 hours. Collection is where you want to go, and you'll see that inventory is now here. You may not see this directory until there's inventory to be processed through this satellite. So it'll create this inventory directory on the fly. But if you go to the inventory directory, you could see this is a timestamp and this is your asset. And they'll slowly sit here until the 2 hours is up, and then it'll roll it up. Make sense? That's our satellite. Now let's go over to our primary. More VMs. 27. Oh, I don't need this, actually. Let me minimize that. We'll go in here. And let's go here. So you can see summary in here from yesterday. Now this is success. So again, go into work collection. Don't go into work inventory. There's a work inventory. Now this is the adaptive agent. When it does a scan on this box, it populates here, which is what we can see here, work inventory, right? So that's for the agent. But for those devices that are processing the inventory, you want to go to work collection, and then the inventory. It'll have success and failure, and you can go into success and see that these were inputted just fine. If you wanted to see which asset was having an issue, let's say it's stuck, it's not going any further, and it may not be related to that particular device. It may be another device that's in here under inventory, because what will happen is the collection from the satellite will come into this inventory and process. Once it's successful, it goes into success. So there may be assets in here or XML files in here that are just building up. Finding that one that is causing the issue, you can either have it rescan or whatever, but you can use the URL, or I'm sorry, the GUID to see what devices are. So if we did, for instance, this one for this server is 13CA, and I did it Zman OGN, and it told me this is the primary server. So you can do a Zman OGN command to be able to identify what this GUID is as a device, and then you'd be able to track down that particular device. So if we go to, it's been a while since I've done this. Zman, oops, hang on. Not right. There's a command to kick off the process and start it right away. I'd have to look at my cheat sheet for that. So if you had items in here, which we do, we can kick this off and have it process. And that's right. This is a ZAC CDP. This is a satellite. It's not, it's wrong. This is a satellite, so it won't have Zman commands. I'd have to look that one up. But there's actually in the documentation, and I'll update the slide deck and put it in the description what that command is. So that's the process for rolling up from device to satellite or directly to primary so that it can process in the database. I hope that makes sense. All right. Let's get into some more details with ZCC here. So we talked about a few things. We have a device inventory. Okay, here's your basic. Then if you go to detailed inventory, you can see we have some things filled in. We have the software and product manufacturers. Let's cover a few things. Let's go back to here to configuration. And we covered the closest server rules, but if we go to inventory, we can see our inventory. And here's where you can have some selections for scan nows, which if I wanted to on this particular device, I can, let's go here. I can go ahead and select inventory, details, scan now, right? You can collect these certain things. Maybe you don't want the user to initiate, or maybe you don't need to collect hardware because you only really need to collect it once every so often or at once every recurring scan or whatever. So here's a set of options you can select depending if it's scan now, if it's the first scan, very first scan, recurring scans. So the first scan is the full, recurring scan is the deltas. Is anything changed? Then you have software applications. So you can see some of these skip directories are in here. We don't need anything in the recycler or recycled. Installer, cabs. We don't want to track that information. Okay? Because what we're doing is collecting inventory on the box. You can include or exclude what you need, or you could skip directories at this point. But then maybe there's some directories you want or don't want, but you want to include or exclude. So you have an include and you have an exclude. So you can collect exe files or not. Okay. You can file categories. Is it a system file, ancillary files, or other? And then what else do you want to collect? You can include directories with recognized products. It's all right here where you can pick and choose. Now this is where you really refine the inventory, right? I'm curious to see, let's go back to my device because I installed, I installed on there a product, CPU Z. Let's see if it found that. We got Skype. No, I don't see it. But here's, there's drivers. Okay. So this might be a candidate for that because the PRU would, it looks at the PRU, oh, there it is there. The PRU will have certain things. So we have this particular CPU-Z on this device and it picked it up. So that's good to know. And then, where's my history? Another thing you can look at, which we had to do to see if people, in my previous employer, they were like, I think so-and-so is doing funny stuff on his box. You know, I think he's installing things he shouldn't. I go out there and it's not there. Remember that you have history over here. And this will keep the history of what's going on, installs and connections and those types of things. If we wanted to see CPUs, let's see if we have CPU-Z here. Control find CPU. I don't, oh, 1 of 6. So let's see. CPU product. That would be, that's not it there. And speed. CPU ID. We could see that it was added yesterday. Now, if this was, now if I remove it and do another scan, it'll show that it'll show that it was removed. So be aware that you can actually track what's going on the device as far as installs and what components are being attached. And it tells you the source. The collector found it. Okay. So know that that the history is there. It's very powerful. We've had to use that. We've actually excused people from or held back permissions from people, gotten permission from HR to hold back some permissions on a device because of this activity, and we had proof in the history. Okay. We are an hour into it. We're going to continue on if there's no questions in chat. That was just to show you around a few things on the detail and software inventory. Next, we're going to head over to the configuration. You also have, under inventory, you have the inventory schedule. So this is a scan schedule. How often are you going to scan the device? And in this case, it's monthly, first day of the month. There's also some other things like collection data form we'll get to in a minute, inventory only. So you realize that you can go to, let me open this up. We're going to go to the tools. We want it opens another browser. So we have new installs, then you have updates. So we're looking at the agents here. And this is the agent for the full product, the full ZENworks agent, not the inventory only. If you go to inventory tools, you can do the inventory only agents. Okay. So those are devices that you have high CPU processing. It's doing analytical study. It's doing things where you don't really want the full agent on it, but you want to be able to inventory it automatically. So you don't have to manually import whatever. So you can actually put this agent out there. It's a very lightweight agent. You can see it's quite small for Windows. And it will do the inventory and come in. Now, if you do that inventory and you go to devices, you'll have to go to inventory only area. Okay? I don't have any, but they would be listed under here. So they're separate from the managed because you have the managed agent and you have the inventory only agent. Okay? Then you have discovered devices, which is your network discovery. Okay? And then you have your dashboard. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of where to find the inventory only agent so that you can bring those in, as well as where to find them here. Okay. Now the discovered is interesting too, because it'll try to understand where certain things, certain things are through that scan process, either WMI or SNMP or the ZENworks agent. But you can see some things came in here. And I think if we went here, I'd probably be able to find my printer. Now, it wasn't able to discover a printer. It has a printer category. Because with what I have a small printer on this network. But if we went to unknowns, we can then see that we went to the next page. I've done an inventory and I know that this particular device is a printer. So I can now label it as a printer. And network type, we can see what kind of network type we want to label it. And we're there because I know that's my printer. If I go back to discovered, I now have a printer. Okay. I could give it a name, those types of things. All right. So as it does a network scan, it finds IP addresses, or at the very minimal IP addresses or MAC addresses that are out there, and it will try to decipher what it is. If it can't, it'll go into the other, and then you're able to assign them as needed. We started doing this with all our routers. All our routers were above 200 IP address, 200, 201 through to 210, and so we would know what those are. And then our printers were between 150 and 200, and of course each floor had its own subnet. So we were able to, by having that structure, we were able to identify what these are on a network discovery. Okay, I know this is my router, this is my gateway, so I can go ahead and label this as a router. It's network equipment in this case, and we're going to go to router. Okay, so now if I go back to discovered, it has been discovered, and I don't have a router category, it looks like here. But if I did a report on it, I could see what it is. Okay. What's next? So we have the inventory only. We have the full agent, which most everybody's familiar with. The discovered, if you haven't done that, in order to scan those assets that are connected to the network, you want to go to deployment. And for instance, I have a test in here. And basically, I'm using IP discovery for the subnet. Not scheduled. You could schedule this regularly. This is where I was finding rogue devices on the network at my previous employer. Okay. So I would take a day to where I would just do asset inventory and try and get reset and make sure things were checked. So I did that once a quarter, I think was my schedule. When you do that, it'll send you results. So this was my router. SSH failed, WinAPI failed, Zenworks ping failed, and MAC address was success. So I knew that 1111 was it, so I was able to identify that. If we go to others, like, let's see if I can find we got a lot of MAC addresses succeeded. I'm looking for a Zenworks ping. Failed. I'm not scrolling either. I think 30. Oh, I haven't done it recently. 158. That was my printer. Okay. I haven't done it recently. You can see it was July when I did it. No wonder. So let's go ahead and run this. We're going to go ahead and do a summary. We want to do a schedule. We're going to do a schedule now and hit OK. Now remember, the bigger the subnet, the longer it's going to take, right? So it goes fairly quick, but if we go to results now, it'll start ticking off one at a time, and you'll see this list grow. I don't remember what my IP address was for my device. So and that can run in the background. So we're going to go to my device. Device is 210, so it's way up there. Let's go here. It's running. You can see here under Discovery Tasks, Deployments, see it's running one of 254. And so throughout the day, I'd have one subnet running. Once I'd see it's done here, I'd run the next one, and then run the next one. And you can see it found one device this last scan. If we go to results, we can see the one is here. It It's already on 5. It's trying. It'll try a few different things, all these different things. But this one, it was found. And we know that that's our router. Once it gets to, by default, it's going to do a ZENworks ping. If it has a ZENworks agent on it, it'll say success, and it'll actually identify it to that device. But if it can find it through WinAPI or SSH, all the better. Some devices obviously won't have the agent on it. So we're going to let that run a little bit. Okay? So that's how we'll get to when we go to our devices discovered. And it'll repopulate this as it goes along. Okay? So that's our inventory only. We talked a little bit about that, what our reconciliation is. Serial number, MAC, machine name, enable differentiation. So let's say it finds a device through inventory only, and it's gonna, and then it scans it again. It will reconcile through these if these match. Okay. And then, and you have the same thing for inventory reconciliation. Not in that section. We're going to come back to collection data form. Purge inventory history. This is where you have your dedicated server. Okay, so if I had that one as a dedicated server, and I am decommissioning this primary from a group of 5 primaries, I want to make sure I know that this dedicated server is running that. I need to reassign this to somebody else. Okay, there's different ways that you can purge the data. You can remove deleted products, inventory history, software, web application usage, and so forth. All right, so there's usage report in here as well. And then, of course, you can have a schedule. All right. Inventory report rights. These are the rights. By default, it's view execute, but you can turn those off if you don't want those to be seen by certain individuals. PRU schedule. Here's another schedule. How often do you want to check the PRU schedule? Probably should do it recurring. Well, first, I'm going to do 3rd day of the month because it comes out on the 1st, I'm pretty much sure. And download schedule, I want it reoccurring, and I want to do it the 3rd at 2 o'clock because it doesn't take too long to download it. And then PRU deployment schedule, reoccurring. We used to have to come in here and do this automatically or manually each month. And you'd forget about it, or you'd see it in the system updates, right? You could go ahead and apply. Because if you remember, this is just another system update for the PRU. If we go up to configuration, system updates, you have your July PRU. You can see I haven't done it in a while. Let's check for updates. September's in there. No sense doing July or August. We'll just do September. And again, we'll just go ahead and download the update. Now with that schedule, you wouldn't have to do that. It'll be automatic. Okay, downloading 100%, and then it'll go through some processes. And this particular file is the recognition of fingerprints on devices, on software. So the software, each software has its own fingerprint, and that's what is compiled in this PRU. If you have, you can also add to that through those OS targets. You can add and be able to add your own. If you have an in-house and you want it in your inventory, you have an in-house application, and you can add it to the OS targets, and you can actually get it in your report. You can see it's waiting authorization. We'll go ahead and authorize that. Ready to deploy. And again, your schedules will take care of what we just did here in system updates. And I'm sorry, I probably should make this larger for you. That better? Okay. Next is configuration. Oh, sorry. Yeah, configuration. Out of band inventory reconciliation. So those that are discovered outside, out of band, you also have the reconciliation, and you can also set your schedule for that. So let's go to collection data form. Collection data form typically is turned off and available for use. It's quite powerful. If you trust your users enough to fill in some basic information, you can have it automatically show. You could schedule it to prompt them. You know, every year, oh, we're doing a physical, can you fill this stuff in? And then your technicians can come in behind and do more physical inventory. Or you can just not allow them to do it, but allow others, maybe your technicians, to do it. So you can see I've added monitor 1 serial number, monitor 2, and I hope that's big enough, and monitor 2 serial number. So we're doing an inventory, all right? And we're going to add those things in. We can add other things in. For instance, if we went ahead and where do you put those in? Those are over in the ADF. So this is our form. We want to build this form out. So we're doing a physical inventory. Let's go on over to configuration, asset inventory, and it's a workstation administrator defined field. You can see there's 4 in there, which was our 2 monitors and our 2 serial numbers. Okay, we can now add IP phone. Okay, default value, you can give it what you might need. You can give it size. Is it editable? Do you want to give a list? And then what's the mask? If, let's say, you want a mask for a phone number or something. We'll leave it like that. We'll hit next and finish. The other thing we'll do is we'll do physical inventory. And the default is date, right? And the default value, we'll let them put the default value, and we'll allow them to edit it. Okay, let's go next. Now if we go back to our collection data form, we can see at the bottom, IP phone, physical inventory. Now, by default, this is a default setting. It is not an autofill, it's not required, it's not editable, it's not even displaying. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like at the desktop. Okay? So if we go to our desktop, let's go larger. Oh, it won't go any larger from, oh, hang on a second. Let's see if I can pull this larger for you. Better, I hope. Yeah, it'll only fit in there. Okay. So if we look at our desktop at this point in time, one way to get the CDF is right here in this menu. Okay. It's not listed because we told it not to be listed. If we go back over here and we say show Zen icon, show in Zenworks icon menu, and we save this. Okay, by default, we go back over here, we'll do a refresh. Should see it come up here. Oh, there it is, collection data form. Here's our collection data form. All right, and this is text I put in. All right, notice nothing's editable at this point. Notice we don't even have, we're not even displaying those new items that we did. Let's go back over here and we can make this editable. We want users to be able to fill some of this stuff in. Site is editable. We're not gonna, so notice we put in like for schools, right? And then we have some buildings here. And so if we wanted to identify where these devices are, one thing we want to do, if you notice, let me back up just a second. Notice there's a submit. You can't get rid of it without submitting. Okay? What if we can also put a cancel in there? Where'd it go? Is it in the background? Let's put a cancel in there. Let's do a refresh. Oh, there it is. So you'd have to submit. Well, maybe you just want it as reference. I can't X out or anything, right? Let's go ahead and put show cancel button on form. There's also an invisible mode, which will collect data in the background because you're scheduling this. And remember, you can pull from the registry. So invisible mode is quite nice to be able to pull those site informations and so forth from the registry, or from doing just the collection data form. So we're going to actually show monitor 1. Oh, I did have a workstation phone there. This is by default. So it's not an IP phone. So I'll say yes to those. Now, are these editable? Let's go ahead and make these editable, because we're going to do a physical inventory. I didn't put a printer. You could put a printer in here. You could put other devices that you know you have. Now, remember the required, if they don't fill it in, that you won't be able to submit or cancel. All right, so required is touchy as well. We're not going to autofill. We're going to go ahead and show this. I think this is all. You can put instructions over here. Select school. The device is in. Actually, this would be, let's go here. Building. Right? And you could say physical inventory, date of physical. So you can put things there that will help them navigate through this. Let's go ahead and hit apply. Again, you can edit these right here. I've defined under building. So for instance, floor, you can actually go and edit and say floor 1. Oops. Floor 1. Floor 2. Basement. Okay. Notice it comes in here. So the editing is quite easy through all of this. We can even do this if we wanted to. Hit apply. Now we can go back to our device. Do a refresh. Give it a second. How we do it out there, chat? Everybody awake still? Hope this is something you can use. Let's go to collection data form. It starts to come to life, right? I can do Paul, Pedron, site, Clark. Because it's a predetermined site and a drop down, it allows you the down arrows, but that's it. Okay. And there's our physical inventory. See, it's today's date. And we can do 555. Okay. Monitor 1 is a Dell 15. And then let's give some sort of serial number. Let's see, 4456 or whatever. Copy this. And then we'll do Dell 15, whatever they want to call it. We will then go ahead. We have a floor. Oh, we didn't make that floor editable. Okay. So there we've done a little bit. And we do a submit. And we will then do an inventory. And you have that's the reason for schedules, right? So if things are changed, you can do a scan now. It'll collect it in the inventory. If scan now isn't run, then obviously your schedule will pick it up. Okay, and then if you refresh this page, you can see that we've kicked off at 9/21 a new start date. Otherwise, the next scan date would be 10/1. All right, so let's go back on over and see. We can see in here, inventory is going on. And we can see from our servers, we can see it's going to go to the satellite first. And then to the primary. All right. And I want to go to my SLS. So you can see we've got a few more devices in there. There's the Delta. Okay. Now, not remembering that command isn't helping me out here very well, is it? Let's see if I can find it. I'm looking for the command for rolling up immediately the inventory. Collection. There it is. So we're doing collection. Here's your CRC, CRQ, CRW. So what we need to do now is we do ZAC. Notice it's now empty. We go over to our next device, which is our primary. Collection. Notice all these came in. There's that Delta, right? And it should start processing these real soon. If we go over to ZCC, probably too soon yet, but inventory. And if we go to inventory, we are looking for, there's monitor 1, 2, okay. Hasn't come in yet. check for if there's a way to kick that off a little faster. Z-man inventory. Normally, once it sees it in there, it automatically imports it. Okay. Oh, it's done. So it's not that bad. There's success in here. Now if we look at inventory, I was just rushing it. Notice we have Clark Intermediate here. We have building B here. The floor was masked, so I couldn't edit it. If we go in here, we can now see our monitor, Dell 15, monitor 1, monitor 2, phone number, physical inventory is in there. So you can actually get results quite quickly with the collection data form. And again, you can actually prompt them with that form, or just leave it in the system tray under the ZENworks icon. That's the wrong device. Hope that makes sense. Hope that's helpful. Okay. And you can put in this text up here, even if you prompt them, that time of year again, time for inventory, please submit what you have for your inventory on this device, or please fill in what you have on this device. And it may be as simple as just first name, last name. All right. Next, I want to do a group change for department. See if we can do this right. We're going to go to Asset Inventory. Oh, before we do that, let's go back to our deployment. 150 of 254. Let's see what we got. Results. Okay. Let's just show all. Got some statuses in here I'm looking at. 170. What did we say? Oh, it was 2 something, wasn't it? What was our 210? So it's almost there for that one. But my device for the SLES, there it is over here. They get buried. Come on now. All right, so this one is 32. Let's go see if what we have on 32. 32. Notice the ZENworks ping succeeded, which tells us we have a ZENworks agent on that box. Okay, and your routers may have certain things turned off too, right? So it'll fail because, not because the box doesn't tell it or analyze it. It's because the router says, I'm not allowing that traffic for that port. Okay, so there's our discovery. We got a few results there that we could see. You can see our settings. The discovery settings are these here. You can override them and do nmap, SNMP, WMI. Okay. Let's go back over. We're going to do a bulk change. We're going to go to Asset Inventory. Now we're going to add a filter. We're going to say IP address contains 192.168.1 dot. Okay, and we're going to do it. We're going to actually display We'll go site, department, holding the control key down. We want to do building floor. We don't care about phone number. We may want to do asset tag to verify. What's the system information operating? And maybe we'll want to change the monitors because I did it wrong. Let's go like that. So now here's a search of everybody within this subnet range with the IP address to .1 and the information. Okay. So now what we can do is we could say, well, this particular box and this particular box, let's go here. They're not Dell 15s. We're going to go replace selected. And it's going to say, okay, what do you want to name it? It's going to be the Dell 2400 2400 HD or whatever, right? Set to new value. Where current value contains Dell 15. All right. So that'll should modify on both of those. All right. Didn't modify in this one. Oh, because it didn't have the Dell 15. So let's go this one and this one. Replace selected. They're in my what department? They're in the Clark Intermediate department. And then equal to blank, because I don't have a department on those two, or temporary site. Let's see. Yeah, because they're in the temporary site, I want to move them over to Clark Intermediate. So let's do OK. Notice now that they're at Clark Intermediate. How does that reflect on the device in the inventory? Let's go look. So that was a fdo. Let's go to devices, workstations, support, fdo. And if we go to inventory, we can now see it's at Clark Intermediate. Okay, where there was none before. So this kind of brings into line the inventory and tweaking the inventory. And again, I would take a day out where I'd be doing discoveries, and then I'd double check my IP address ranges, because that was the easiest way to find the department, or to put in to identify that is in that department, that device. And then I'd start doing some bulk changes for departments and sites. Of course, you can cross-reference that with the user, making sure that they're in the right, they're in that department. And if one should come up that's different, you can also find the rogue devices and so forth. You can edit here if you wanted to edit this particular device and go, that one shouldn't have been changed, or it should be in building, Clovis High or whatever. But you can actually manually change departments and stuff in here. I don't have any. We'll go Department of Finance, Cost Center, 001, 0022, floor, basement, room, 05524. We go ahead and hit submit. It now populates some of those things. Now, obviously, if you have thousands and thousands of devices, the individual manual stuff won't make sense. But being able to tweak some of those bulk, because you have an IP address range that this department is in, or you have a subnet or whatever else is in that bulk change list, you can obviously modify that and be able to at least make the asset inventory report a little bit more viewable. Okay, so you can select filters on any of these to be able to modify. Okay. There we are. All right. So we had inventory. We saw inventory roll up. We can go out to, well, we're going to actually go here. Oh, all of them were success. Notice there's none in here. If there's a fail, there could be a failure in here, but they're all in here. Again, if one gets stuck, you can always remove the individual and then rescan that device. You can look up the device by doing an Zman OGN. And then it'll find, from that GUID, it'll find the device that goes to. Maybe there's problems with the device. Maybe it's just a hiccup and you need to clear it out so the rest will clear through. I've seen where there's thousands in here because one hung it up. And it was obvious that inventory wasn't coming through. So we were able to clear those and get it rolling again. All right. Any questions on chat regarding the roll up or inventory or bulk? Don't see any. We did cover the data form schedule, same type of results, recurring. But again, you can go with that schedule, depends on what you have scheduled here or what you have set here. You know, invisible mode, which means customer won't be prompted when that is sent out. If it's not invisible mode, during that schedule, it'll prompt the user just like they're going into the system icon tray for ZENworks and selecting collection data form. We found this advantageous in doing reporting and those types of things. As far as reports, that's what we need to do next. So we have hardware, software, applications. There are some default reports, right, for software applications. And you can go ahead and select these and find out what's going on in general on your system, right? If you then select, you could see, let me see if I can get this bigger. I just went through a canned report. Go back, went through a canned report for operating systems. And let's say I have a Windows 7, there's 2 of them. Let's go ahead and select what those are. Oh, it's these 2 devices. So now we have some identification on that device. If we click into the machine name, it'll take me right to the inventory report. So we can actually see what's going on and help identify what we have to migrate off of. There are other duplicate serial numbers. Do I have any? I do. That same Windows 7 box, I have 2 devices with it. Obviously, that was registered twice for my testing. Okay. So there are some canned reports. If you want to make your own reports, you can go under whatever. I always created a new folder name. And then so I wouldn't get confused on which ones, because there may be others working on this. This came over here. So report name would be CPU Z application. And I can then go software. And then we can go all software if we wanted to, continue. And what do we want to search on? Let's see, what columns do I want to report on? This is CPU Z. And by default, that particular application report will give you the manufacturer name version. You could take things out if you wish. What I'll normally do is go ahead and hit save and then run it and see if that gives me what I'm looking for. Maybe I picked the wrong identifier or something. Now look at CPU ID is here. So we do have that. but I may not want the additional stuff. Maybe I just want to identify just because it went through 3,200 records. Maybe I just want that record or that device with that record on it. So you can then start tweaking. You can edit and start tweaking. Is it deleted? No. And you just start whittling it down as you do for your custom reporting. You can do IP address, save, run, and if we go to, oh, that's right. But that would, let's look again. Previous. So it went through 43, 49 records. Let's edit because it had IP address in the field. Let's go everybody over here. Let's go application. Again, to refine it just how you want to. Does take a little bit of massaging. Application. ID. Package name. And then we could then go and say, sorry, I don't want this one. I want this one. If I knew the package name, and I'm not sure, it'll list them here. It will do its best to list them there. ID. Should be able to select from in here. I know I'm selecting the wrong thing. Okay, so there's a couple of things that come up in here, but that's not what I want. Not the additional. And one way I would go through this is cancel, report definition has all of these. If I do save, run, I could say I'm looking for product manufacturer CPU ID. Okay, so if I do an edit and I do product manufacturer, everything goes over here. We then go to product manufacturer, and then I go to IP address or asset tag. Okay, and then if I do add and product manufacturer, nope, come on now. Come on now. Equals, and then I could type in CPU like that, and then I can hit save and run. Didn't find an asset tag with that on it because it's software, not hardware. What I needed to do was define a hardware report that software has on it. Oh, did I delete everything? I never saw. Oh, there it is. So I'd create a new report that is hardware, because I'm looking for the hardware with a particular software on it. Then you can identify that particular, those PCs with that software in that version, and you know what to upgrade. Should they have been installed manually or whatever. Okay, so I kind of went the wrong direction with the application. Any other questions? Hey, Jose, how are you doing? Hey, Paul, Thanks for joining us today. Glad to have you here. I hope this helps out. If there's any questions, please put them in chat. We've covered a few different things here as far as inventory in ZCC and how to get some reports out, how to get extra data. You can actually your inventory schedule and those things. If there's no questions in chat, we're coming up on our time. Have I ever imported an inventory report or CSV from a vendor, say Dell, into ZAM and had it reconcile that data? Could you show that at some point? All right, so we have a LDAP import tasks. I'm trying to remember how it's been a while since I've been at my previous employers and did something like that. But I do believe, let's take a little walk here. And see, now I don't have a report, but let's see what we have pre-configured. So that's more LDAP. So I don't think that's where we want to go. But we want to import, let's say Dell sent us so many devices and so many monitors and so forth. We want to be able to import that particular information into. Now, Jose, you're talking ZAM, and we're really covering, we're pretty much covering ZENworks Inventory, not to be confused, ZENworks Asset Inventory as opposed to ZENworks Asset Management. Now, asset management, you can import catalogs and contracts and licensed products and so forth. We would probably cover that because that gets real deep into catalogs and contracts and different things like that. As far as asset inventory, I'm trying to think. We do need to do an asset management to kind of sum up the trifecta of ZSD, ZCM, and ZAM. I'm not prepared to do that, obviously, today, but I want to say that I need to find, here's a software, create a custom report definition, unique software files. No, this isn't it. I want to say yes, but I don't have the specific answer for you on how. So that's a great add, great note. Let me write that down. Inventory. I know in ZSD it's available. I know in ZAM it's available. Now how about in here? Now one thing we can do is, okay. We can bring in devices. You can import managed devices or import inventory only devices. You can add devices. So if we went host name, support, and I did a CSV with adding devices in. As a matter of fact, let me show you that. For instance, thank you for asking. If we go to my G products, CCM, and if we go to import, my test last week when I did test environments, I did exactly that. So let me see if I have my lots. There's my lots. And edit. Okay, so for instance, I want to create these came in from Dell, let's say, and it's a development workstation, proto lab, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So from a CSV, if we went ahead, copy this, and there's a zman command for this as well. If you go to devices and you go to import, here's your registration key. What key are you going to use? I'm going to do the developer one. Oh, you know what? Let's first go to developer and I'll show you what's in there. Because there are a few that are in there. Workstation, development. Okay, we just have 3. And so if we go to devices and we do an import, devices, import manage devices, and we go ahead and put developer, because that'll give, with that key, it'll give it the right registration. And we're going to go to here, and we're going to go to the lots. Okay. Now this is where, if you have it ordered and they're shelved right now, they're even in shipping right now, but you have the process, you have the paperwork in front of you, you can predefine and have these workstations in Zen so that after you import them, register them, and image them, and they have that name, they'll link up and reconcile through the name or whatever. So you can see now we have 51 items. I hope that helps a little bit. As far as ZAM, yeah, that's a little bit different. But in ZENworks, we used to get the paperwork for Dell. We would pre-populate ahead of time. Then when we pulled them off the shelves and imaged them, put them in HR, and it came up and registered to the zone, it would then automatically be in HR, have the right key, be in the right department, in the right location, because in our workstations, we had departments and then HR, finance, and so forth. Okay, does that make sense? Hope that's helpful, Jose. So you can import mass. Now that's devices, right? You can do inventory only also. But now those devices, if we go into one of those devices, there really isn't anything there, right? Because it hasn't done a scan. It can't do a scan. Inventory's not there. The MAC address is there because I put that in the CSV. All right, so this stuff, anything that's populated is in the CSV, but you see the operating system it doesn't even know about yet. So if you look at this, it's all blank. Okay, so that's one way to pre-populate your devices in ZCM before you've actually imaged them. So now you have from birth to grave, cradle to grave, right? It's come in the door, you can bring it into ZCM. And then when it goes out, you can actually go ahead and retire them through the retired area, right? So you can go action, retire device at that point. Okay? And you can report on that as well. I hope that covers what your question is, at least for the Zenworks configuration management. Have you ever imported an inventory report or CSV from a vendor? So I did have to take it from the vendor report and put it in a particular format for the CSV to work, obviously, right? And you can do that with ZAM too. So we'll start working on getting a ZAM to kind of ZAM ZENcast so that we can round out all the inventory and have a good way to show people that don't have ZAM, that do have ZAM, that has service desk, different ways of doing it. So thank you for that question. I appreciate that. It's always good to have the questions come in from live people that are actually using it and want to find out more details. Okay? All right. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives a little bit of detail on your inventory for that Zenworks configuration management can give you. A little bit of reporting. I didn't hook up my ZRS to this. I wasn't able to show that today. We're running out of time, but that too can be configured so that you can report in more detail from ZRS. I appreciate everybody being here. I do want to let you know that, let's see if... So yeah, next time we're going to be doing auditing and messages, and that's in this area here. So who keeps track of who? Who audits who when we, who's watching the watchdog, right? So this will report different things in ZCC so that you can actually see the remote control activity, any Zenworks login activity, rights, and so forth. Bundle deployments, who's launching what. So that'll be next time. And any other questions just before? I appreciate everybody being here. I hope you guys are staying safe. We're pretty smoky out here in California, so I hope we can get some good winds coming through here to help the firefighters and put out some of these fires. But I'm so glad you're able to make it. I hope that you stay safe, keep your family safe, and we'll be checking back in October 6th is our next ZENcast. There are 5 Tuesdays this month, so we're the 1st and 3rd. So the 5th one we won't be meeting, but we will on the 1st of October, and that will be auditing. So stay safe and stay well. And if you need anything, please feel free to email me, paul.pedron@microfocus.com. If you have any suggestions, or if you have, Jose, if you happen to have that report that you're able to give to me, we can work through that and see the best way that to import that in either through ZAM or ZCM. All right? Send it to me. We can chat offline. But I appreciate everybody being here and taking the time out of your day to see how this particular ZENcast can work for you. Thank you very much. Take care.